have bad news for you folks, okay? Our social skills need a shit ton of work. Social skill really is a skill that can be learned. People are very much the gatekeepers of your success in this life. However you want to define success, you guys need to understand how to attract people to you. These tips help you to make other people feel good around you, as well as present yourself better in social situations. A lot of them come from this book, actually. It's called this is a good starting point, by Leo Landez. These are really just behavioral prescriptions, like this is what you should do in XYZ situation. It's very important to not only focus though on these behavioral outputs, but don't only treat the symptom, but treat the cause. So at some point we also need to do the inner work to affect how we're doing internally. Authenticity, I'll call tip number 0, which is the golden rule of all social interaction. We must remain authentic to who we are in our social interactions. How you're acting should be in congruence with how you are actually feeling, not being fake, being real with people, saying what you really think. People love someone that's being real, the one brave enough to be real in a social situation. And I can't tell you how many times the best answer was simply to be more authentic and real with people in that situation. You gotta be real. When you start adopting these new social behaviors, some of them are gonna feel awkward. You're gonna hear that voice that says, "That's just not me. I wouldn't say that, Michael." And you might be right now. But the thing is that the more that you do these behaviors, the more they start to really feel like you. James Clear says that every time you do a certain behavior, you are casting a vote for the type of person that you want to be in the future. So as you adopt these new, better social behaviors as habits, it starts to become your identity. I used to be someone that I would say sorry more often. I would say, "Oh, I'm sorry, am I in your way? Oh, can you help me? I'm sorry." No. I learned through my assertiveness training that you don't say sorry. You don't say sorry unless you actually did something wrong. So over time, as I stopped myself and said, "Oh, no, I'm not gonna say sorry," I stopped doing it. And now I have become the type of person that doesn't say sorry unless they did something wrong. And I still mess it up sometimes. Okay, sorry, 1 second. The point is that your persona is a lot more pliable than you might think. You gotta be willing to change and adopt these new behaviors. And the process of crystallizing them into habits is something very different than just intellectually knowing them. It takes real work and getting out there and really applying them in real life to actually start integrating them into your persona. It turns out that a lot of what makes up your personality is really just these behavioral habits, and habits can be learned and unlearned. One way that you can do this is to start by being more self-aware, not self-conscious, but self-aware, aware of your social behaviors, and to start taking pride in how you interact with people. Because the moment that you start taking pride in something is when you really start to, you're on the road to lasting improvement. Let's get into it. The first tip, this is universally agreed upon by so many of these sources. You gotta smile more. This is pertaining to when you're first meeting people, you're first walking up to people, you got to smile more. It's gonna give you a better result. And it has to be a genuine smile. It has to reach up to the eyes. A genuine warmth is gonna get you so much further. This doesn't mean that you need to smile throughout the interaction. That would be weird if you're smiling the whole time, just while you're talking to somebody. That would not make any sense. You have to ride the emotions of the conversation as it's going. Eye contact is very important. Eye contact is so powerful. It creates intimacy. It gets people's attention. You can start a whole conversation just looking at somebody. It's kind of has authority. It makes people respect you more. They did a study where they paired opposite sex people together, didn't know each other, but they asked one of the participants to count the blinks of their conversation partner. Guess what? The people whose blinks were counted reported stronger feelings of fondness and respect for the people that were, just because they were making more eye contact. Fascinating. One caveat, if you're like two men talking to each other, that can be a little too intimate and can be threatening if you're really like locked on. But definitely just don't be like looking down like this, and you know, you're not really portraying yourself as very confident in that way. Eye contact matters. Use it. This is a tip from the book, Hello Old Friend, she calls it. You may wonder, when I go up to meet strangers or people that I don't know, what should I say to them? What energy should I bring to them? I'm here to tell you the definitive answer, unanimously agreed upon by experts, okay, is you gotta treat them like an old friend. You gotta treat them like you know them from long ago. Hey, what's up? I know you. You know, hey, what's going on over here? What'd you guys order? That looks fancy as hell. The problem is that most people, they come up and they're too stiff or they're too formal. People reflect the energy that you give to them when you come up. 9 times out of 10, they're gonna give you back the vibe that you're bringing to them. So you set the energy at a playful tone early, if you can. Oh goodness Lord, this is a big one. Active listening. I had an advisor once that she would listen to the first 20% of my sentence, cut me off right there, interrupt me, interpret that in her mind, and respond to that, which is, mind you, not a fully formed thought. Y'all need to listen to your conversation partners when you're talking, okay? This is the problem, is that people aren't present. People are thinking of, what am I gonna say next? They're not listening. You need to be envisioning and carefully being present and hearing what they're saying so that you know how to respond. Only when they're done talking, then you start processing and thinking of what to say.
And we should be able to say like this: dear friends, dear people, I know that you suffer a lot. I have not understood enough of your difficulties and suffering. It's not our intention to make you suffer more. It is the opposite. So please tell us about your suffering, your difficulties. I'm eager to learn, to understand. It has to start like that, loving speech. And if we are honest, if we are true, they will open their heart and tell us. And then we practice compassionate, deep listening. And during the process of deep listening, we can learn so much about our own perception and their perceptions. Mm-hmm. And that is the best way, the only way to remove terrorism.
Terrorism or even difficulties between yourself and family members or friends.
Yes.
This is a tip called put the spotlight on them. You need to put the spotlight, the attention of the conversation on them as much as possible. People love talking about themselves. Talk to a man about himself and he will listen for hours. It's true. There's another quote that says, after talking to man A, I felt that he was the most interesting man in all of England. After talking to man B, I felt I was the most amazing woman in all of England. Now, which do you think that she enjoyed talking to more? People love talking and hearing about themselves. You're gonna endear people to you so much more when you put more focus on them. Too often people talk too much about themselves. Now, on the flip side of this, me-based communication, statements about yourself, is able to add value. You know, you can gain people's respect that way. You can also show vulnerability. You know, you can have openness that way. So that both sides are important, and it has to be a balance ultimately. But most people gotta put the spotlight on them more. Questions can oftentimes be converted into statements to great effect, and they can be made more assertive and confident once they're statements. So for example, if I'm asking someone, Whitney, you wanna go to dinner on Friday? Question, right? Versus, Whitney, you'll love this place, let's go on Friday. Option B is way more confident, and it does two things. First, it makes an assertion, let's go. Let's go. By the way, let's is a really great word for a really great assertive word. Like, let's do this, let's move, let's make moves. Second thing it does is that it actually saves her the energy of having to think about, oh, do I want to go? Like, you want to go? Well, she has to think about it. I don't know. Do I want? People oftentimes don't want to have to think. They want to be told. If you want to make it ridiculously smooth, instead of, oh, you want to go to dinner on Friday, it's, I'm thinking about where to take you out on Friday. But Whitney's not going to be standing vertically after that one. She's going to be fainted on the ground, okay? That's the end of that conversation. She's dead. Let's say that you're asking someone out. You could say, oh, you wanna maybe get coffee on Friday? Option B is, hey, we should get coffee sometime, maybe Friday. That second statement, you're making an assertion, you're making a suggestion, we should do this. Maybe even better, like, hey, I'm gonna go do this. You wanna tag along? I'm giving you the definitive answer of how you need to ask someone out right now. This is golden level knowledge. Please, please. You can convert I statements into you statements. If someone said to you, I like your suit, versus they say, that suit looks great on you. Even more warm is, you look great in that suit. The latter options are more warm, and it's more likely to make someone feel good about themselves. The first one, I like your suit, that's just a statement about me. It's like, I like your suit. Or it's a statement about the suit. And that may be what you're trying to say, but Leo goes around San Francisco and says, she starts yelling out the window. This is an experiment. I can't find the Golden Gate Bridge. Where's the Golden Gate Bridge? I can't find it. People are like, piss off. What the fuck are you yelling at? I can't find the Golden. And then she starts yelling out, can you help me find the Golden Gate Bridge? Can you help me find the Golden Gate Bridge? Now people are, oh, of course we can help you. Can I take off on Friday? Versus, are you okay if I take off, or can you do without me on Friday? The you often triggers people's sense of pride, and it makes it more personal for them. It's like a nicer way of asking that's more likely to get you what you want. Thread cutting. When we are having a conversation with someone new, we often go into small talk. Small talk is anything that is external to both you and I and is of low emotional relevance or depth. It's okay to actively halt or cut boring threads. If you are yawning in the conversation, it's partially your fault. You want to really see it as your responsibility to direct the conversation towards things that you are authentically interested in, the things that you want to talk about. And by doing so, you make it more likely that they will have a good time as well. And this is a concept called self-engagement or self-amusement. Ask thoughtful and open-ended questions, right? Not questions that are, how long you been working there? 2 years. What else can we talk about? How long? Spend a little time crafting a question that's actually gonna probe someone's interests, passions, their motivations, their values. There was this fascinating study called the 36 Questions That Lead to Love. These are great examples of questions that go deeper than small talk. And the idea was that these psychologists put these questions together by having people answer these questions that didn't know each other. They built a very strong sense of intimacy by the end. It's very powerful. So this shit matters. Small talk needs to be moved past soon if you're trying to connect with a person. If you're not, then who cares? You can do small talk or whatever. Do not talk about work, politics, religion, finance, if you're trying to have a good time with people, okay? I'm gonna leave it at that. Prosaic with passion. You can be talking about something totally mundane, but if you're speaking about it with passion, people tend to listen more. This is a technique for getting people's attention more.
Innovation is not that you have an R&D department who invents. Yes, of course, but it's much more than that. The innovation must be everywhere. It must be from the receptionist who tells you one day, hey, I have an idea. This is how we should handle, blah, blah, blah. Innovation must be everywhere. But how do you make innovation to be everywhere and not only in the R&D department? By the boss. Because the boss is like the rain. The rain comes from the top and goes down to earth. And the same, if the boss has inspiration, ecological and protection of nature, then it will go down. So it's the responsibility of the leaders.
Even if you could care less about watches, it's hard not to listen to somebody that speaks with that much passion. There's a lot of books out there about body language. This one's really good. But you don't have to read these books. You just have to pay more attention to people's body language when you're talking to them. People will share with you so much without them saying a word. The way they're touching themselves, or the direction that their feet are pointing. These are clues, these are called tells, that tell you how they're really feeling. And these are involuntary. They're not even trying, they're not consciously even knowing that they're expressing them. Here's a couple examples. If somebody's feet is pointed away from you in the conversation like this, it most likely means that they want to leave, because the feet, he says, is the most honest part of the body. If your legs are crossed like this, you're standing, and you're kind of balancing, you know that position, you're standing on one heel. That's a position of like comfort. If people are touching themselves like this, doing any sort of touching of their body, rubbing their legs like this, those are called pacifying behaviors, and they're used to soothe stress. I was having lunch with this girl one time, and she takes her hand and she just really smears it across her face like that. And at the time I was like, what did that mean? What was that? And now I know that it's a pacifying behavior to calm yourself down. So she was stressed about something. Moving on. This is a tip called the premature we. Okay, the words we, our, and us create a sense of intimacy and camaraderie. You can actually use that to your benefit with people that you've just met. You know, what are we gonna do? Where are we going? How are we gonna get our shit? These are ways to kind of get yourself in there with them a bit more. It's just interesting, a little language hack there. Okay, now I want to move on to giving and receiving compliments. Let's start with receiving. You have a nice hairstyle. An appropriate response is simply to say, thank you, I appreciate that. If you want to go above and beyond, you want to pass that joy back at them, okay? Something to the effect of, oh, how kind of you, or that's such a sweet compliment, thank you. Whatever you do, you want to infuse it with warmth. It has to be genuine warmth. That's what they want to see. They want to see that you had a good reaction to that. It made you happy. What you do not want to do, oh, it's nothing. Just brush it off like, oh, no, it's not. No matter how small it is, because you know what that does? You invalidates what they said. You're undermining what they said. You're reducing your own confidence by not accepting that compliment as like, yes, you're right, thank you. Like, don't disagree with the compliment. That's the idea. Now, when it comes to giving compliments, this is notoriously tricky, because if you do it in the wrong way, you may seem like you're manipulating or sucking up to somebody. A real well-done compliment has to be, one, genuine, coming from the heart. Two, it has to be specific, something specific about them. And three, a really good compliment hopefully validates something that they would like validation on, or appeals to, you know, something that they take pride in. So if somebody said to me, oh, Michael, you have such a nice fashion sense, and I love the watch that you chose, I'd be like, stay back, stay back. So one problem with compliments as well is that people will tend to linger awkwardly on the comment. Like, oh, you have such a nice house. I love the design. I wish that I had a house like this. They're lingering there. You need to move on, actually. The solution to this is that you want to actually slip a compliment in and move on quickly. And this technique is called the parenthetical compliment, where you slip in the compliment into the parenthetical part of the sentence. So he says, oh, you look beautiful, but you must know that blah, blah, blah. In the book, she gives the example, guy says to her, oh, Leo, you're too young to remember this, but blah, blah, blah. And then another example is, someone as fit as you would have zipped up those stairs, but me, I was out of breath. You deliver the compliment and you kind of slip it in there and move on, and that helps avoid that issue that we discussed. Here's another interesting one. Very simple. Just use their name more. Not everybody does this, including me. I have this friend that we were at this bar, and he knows the bartender's name, and he says, hey, Barbara. Or just, Barbara? Another friend, similarly, we leave this other bar and he says, thanks, CJ. The thing is that people's name is their favorite word in the English language. It gets more attention even than you, the word you. And it makes them feel warm. And I've gotten texts that say like, hi, Michael, exclamation point. And I'm just like, well, I didn't like you before this. Now my heart is starting to melt. Just shit like that. Like you don't want to abuse it, but it's very powerful and you can do that more to great effect. Another interesting point from the book called tracking. Apparently Bill Clinton does this a lot. This is when you remember the little details that you hear about someone in conversation and then you save that for later. And then later when you come back and meet them again, you can tap into that and mention that and they'll be so surprised. How's your little border collie doing? You remembered the name of my little angel? It's things that people wouldn't expect you to remember that makes them remember you a lot more. And that again goes back to like active listening. You need to be listening to pick up on those details. Insinuate the quality you want. What happens is that by complimenting someone on a certain character trait or by implying that they have it, they will often rise to fill that role, that character trait. Bob, I know you're a really great listener and that's why I want to talk to you about, you seem like someone that's really spontaneous and blah, blah, blah. I know you're someone who gives people the benefit of the doubt and that's why you need to work with me here on this. He'll say like, oh yeah, I am a good listener. I do give people the benefit of the doubt. I am spontaneous. Yes. What you about to do? What we about to do here? Don't use that for manipulation. Use that to bring out the best in people. When you really want to call out the best from people or get people to treat you better. That's useful. This is another crazy psychological hack called the Ben Franklin effect. He observed that when someone does a favor for you, that person's more likely to do another favor for you again. If you ask someone for a favor, it will get them to like you more. Not intuitive, right? And the reason is because, first of all, asking them for a favor is kind of like flattery. That's what Dale Carnegie says. You're signaling that they have something that you don't. It kind of creates a cognitive dissonance in their mind, which is that, why am I acting this way if I don't like this person? Why am I doing this favor? So they kind of start to like you because their action begets their mental state. By acting in that way, you start to feel like the person who would act that way. Actions beget the mental states. This is a great example of why you need to take action first, okay? At times I've gone out and I've started talking to different people out in the city, like as a social challenge. You know, you start approaching different people. The day didn't start off right. It didn't start off that happy or anything. But as I start acting like someone who's more social and upbeat, you start feeling that way. You start feeling like the person who would act in that way. It's extremely powerful, and what it means is that you need to take action first. That's one way to control how you feel, essentially. You need to take action and not wait for the motivation to strike. Here's one that I gotta tell you, I struggle with this. Don't get defensive. Don't defend yourself. It's hard, it's such an automatic response, getting defensive, I tell you. I used to host events and I was at this event one time. We showed up at this museum. Everyone spread in all sorts of directions and I was freaking out. I was like, I lost control of the group entirely. I was like, what's going on? Like, how can I? There was no way to wrangle everybody back to the same area. And at one point, this person comes up to me and says, Michael, you should add more segments to your events. Like we go to A and then we go to B and C and D. I immediately launched into this tirade of like, well, the reason I don't do it like that is because the X, Y, Z. And it's actually really hard to add more segments into an event because blah, blah. She, of course, you know, is just like, oh, no, it's okay. So by her bringing that comment up, it's triggering to me. It's validating the very thing that I'm most afraid of in that situation. And that's why I'm defensive. So my point is that getting defensive, all it really does is signal your insecurity. It doesn't look good. You gotta try to roll with the joke. You gotta roll with it and just accept it and laugh at yourself, even if you might be the butt of the joke. And if you are facing criticism, you just say, I appreciate your honesty, thank you. I'm gonna leave you with that. This is only scratching the surface, my God. There's so much we have to learn. You will only get better at this by actually practicing it and getting out there and using it. Please get better. right now. Thank you all for listening. I'll talk to you later. Peace out. Bye.